It's exactly 9 o'clock in the studios of Classic 105.5 and 105.9 on the FM band. Good morning to you, Grenada, Carrick, Martinique, the rest of the Eastern Caribbean, to you wherever you are. It's an overcast Friday morning. For those of you who probably just slumbering, you're just getting out of your night slumber and trying to determine what sort of day it's going to be. But notwithstanding what the weather seems to be like, if you have a good attitude towards the day, you might be overcast on the outside, but on the inside you're warm and fuzzy and you're full of love. Your boy JC here with you, and it's a pleasure being here with you. I'll be keeping first for the first hour, for to the point, and then we extend it until 12 in the midday. To our viewers, those of you in GBN Channel 7, Channel 11, Channel 20 if you're in cable, or if you followed us via the World Wide Web at www.gbn.gd, via our Facebook page or our YouTube channel, I say thank you for being part of today's conversation. It is Friday. It is actually the final episode, and I'm saying that people saying Friday is the final episode for the week in the first month of the year 2023, and certainly it's been rather engaging as always, being with you on radio and television. Yesterday we started delving into a conversation. Today we want to get it a little bit further into it. And it isn't one of those sexy conversations, I often say, because when you start a conversation that speaks to the issue of domestic violence, people tend to be very hesitant about it. They quicker get into the mumble-jumble of politics and who and the price of sugar. Not that those things are not important, but there are other social issues that certainly has come to pervade our lives, and it has become a scourge in our society. And at this time, I want to say good morning to a dear old friend of mine. If I'm going to tell you how long, Roger, they might probably figure out our ages. So we're not going to get into that, because somebody might know your age. And if I start to share things, they start wondering, okay, so 1 and 1 is 2. So if that 2 make 2b plus 2c, it's equal to 4x. I want to say good morning to my dear friend, Dr. Christopher Roger Williams. Roger, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Blessings. Thank you. Good morning, good morning all over the world where you are. Thank you for having me here, JC. You know how we do it.
We know how we do it. A lot of people, they probably hear Dr. Williams and they start thinking, is that the same person, Roger? What have you been up to in the last couple of years?
Oh, upgrading. I spend my time upgrading, using the arts as a means of helping people instead of just performances. So I went as far as, I started by bachelor's,
right.
Then I moved on to my master's, and now I did my DBA, my doctorate. Using the arts as foundation.
Using the arts as a foundation, but it's interesting, as part of that, you had a research paper that you had to do.
Yes, definitely.
And interesting, while you were into the arts, and you probably could have thought of 1,000 pieces that you could probably research on, you chose one of those interesting topics, that of domestic violence. And we agree, Roger, that it has always been a scourge.
Yeah.
And it continues even more so in our modern construct to plague our society. What's your general thoughts, having done the research paper, and just talk to us about what's your own position on the issue?
Reality, yes, it exists, and some people may say we will never be able to get rid of it. But the truth is that you can mitigate the issue or the problem and have it to what you call decrease. But with efforts. So it shouldn't just be a talk, but an action-oriented effort. And it can, because of the experiences and the years of work that I've been putting into it, I realize that simply a transformation of mind, and you attack the issue holistically.
And it's interesting that you say transformation of mind, because you have the new administration that talks to that being advocates of transformation. And very often when people hear about transformation, they keep thinking it has to do just with what happens from the government perspective. But any real change, as we consider it, if we probably think transformation sounds magical, any change that has to take place in our life, whether or not on an economic, socioeconomic level, it requires a change. and certainly a change of attitude, how we see things and how we react to things. But we hinted though that the issue of domestic violence isn't a today conversation. It is one you will agree that we've nurtured through the passage of time.
Yes, but I saw it growing up as well, around in the village. Every country I've been in, I've seen it. Next door neighbors, in apartments. It exists. You understand? But what I'm saying here, you notice that you spoke to it. It starts with self.
Right.
And self and the experience that you've acquired over your years of development. It can impact positively or negatively the effect of gender-based violence or domestic violence. Self.
And certainly, while we would highlight self, because that's important, all change starts with me. The man in the mirror. That person that you see, that you probably think is the best thing after sliced bread, we just realize he might be have some good qualities.
Yes.
But when we talk, we hinted to the fact that we've seen it in our society. Because we want to keep the talk real today.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know most of us, we've all grown up. Yesterday we were sharing that you grew up as young men and you're hearing the expression about bruffing a thing. And we're using it so that not to get vulgar, but that we hit home to you. Because many of us, we've heard the expression, young guys growing up, and that's a term that they use. Or you hear them say, after 12 is lunch. As though to suggest that it is okay for a male to exert his dominance on a woman in whatever way, form, or fancy, or once a young lady goes past the age of 12, well, it is a free for all. Those things doesn't help us in our society, does it?
Well, interestingly, it makes it even carefree or worse. I didn't want to say worse, but it makes the individual become so carefree that you do not consider the other person's feelings and emotions and contributions and life existence within society. So you're right, because we grew up hearing that, believing that, what you think to do, you don't care about anybody else because your objective now is to bruff it, to eat it, to get piece of it. I don't care. You understand? And that happens over the years, and then you get the adults. When the young person growing up, you're hearing an adult say it, what do you think will happen next? You want to fall in because you want to be part of that, and you think it's a self-fulfilling thing. Yeah, man, if you don't do that, then it creates a cycle or a circle where you go wrong and you grow up and you pass it on, you grow up and you pass it on. But the danger therein, are we
going to get to the danger of it? And we want persons to appreciate where this comes from. Because change and who we are as individuals, it stems from our environment. What we have been exposed to.
Definitely.
Very often we talk about the impact of music. But even in the early days when the media was not there to be blamed. These coaches, it was there. And I remember it's interesting, I was speaking with Uriah Peters, I don't know if you remember it, a couple of years ago. And we had a spin-off conversation with an elderly gentleman that you would see as an elder in society. And we broached the very issue with him because we were talking about it on air. And we went aside and we said, but listen, this is what is... And he turns around and says to us, and that was a gentleman that was already in his 80s.
Oh.
So I'm not talking about a teenager. Seasoned man.
Yes.
Who's an upstanding person in most of what we see in society. And his response to was, but JC, but that going on says to my little boy. And he said it in this nonchalant, Sarah way. What is the big deal? Tell us, friend Roger, what is the big deal about this menace?
Interestingly, you see, what happens, the big deal, it becomes a big deal now. You see, education opens your eyes. Information opens your eyes. All right? So the more your eyes are opened, the more you get to recognize. But I've been in that situation. We've been supporting or reinforcing things that should not have been happening. You see? And that's why it becomes a big deal. But so when you have the persons not recognizing their rights and responsibilities, and others saying, well, okay, that's my right, I could do what I want, and then you realize, well, you're infringing on another person's rights. So it becomes a rights issue and an opportunity issue.
And it's interesting you say that because very often that's the culture that we live in. Everybody have the right to express themselves, their rights to their religion, their right to the political affiliation, and I agree. But we've become so myopic that we see as far as our rights and not realizing that if we exist within a civilized setting.
Society,
that
yes.
The reality is that there will be overlaps. And the question is now, while I preserve and appreciate my rights, how do I not infringe on somebody else's rights, Doc?
There you go. There you go. And it starts with the knowledge and the acceptance. Because you must recognize, you see what you just said? You have to recognize that within my rights, I have to stop somewhere to allow someone else to execute his or her rights or duties. But there would be overlapping and clashes. And you have to learn to stop and say, this is as far as I should go because it's affecting the next person. But when you're not conscious of that, or when you refuse to accept that, that's where the problem kicks in.
Acceptance, how easy is that? Because the issue of violence, and we're not necessarily thinking about violence in the extreme context of against an individual. Many have argued that that which we see is that primal innate nature in us, man's basic instinct to possess, to conquer, to be the victor,
and defend,
and to defend.
Yes.
I know we would agree on it. So, but let's just talk about those private nature that's in us.
Okay, so let's put it simple. We are hunters. We are go-getters. And we're going back to that selfish part where I want, I have to get, I must get.
It's all about the kill.
It's about the kill. So this is for me, right? And then if you take it down to these levels, like some animals, you put dogs together, and I'm simplifying it now. Put some dogs together, they're playing, they're having fun, start to share the food. You realize all of us
attitude changes.
Right. But because we're at a higher level, we should be able to say, okay, I need to leave some for John, Kevin, Jenny, you understand? And that's where I think that acceptance part is challenging because it's very difficult. When we are so greedy and we're hungry and we say, okay, I'm for the kill. But not remembering or forgetting that you have to share the bread. Because you exist in a society where there must be some level of balance, give and take.
And it's interesting that you say that because people are thinking, me, animals, what does that? And that's in truth and fact, that's how guys behave. And let's be practical. We've all gone through the stage, right?
Yes.
We've all gone through the stage. Guys are there and we just chilling. A young lady passes, and instinctively the culture is, let's see who's going to be the one to get her attention. Who's going to get her name first? Who's going to get her telephone number? And it starts with that cycle where everybody becomes competitive. And Roger trying to say something, JC trying to say something, and we get, boy, I tell you I was going to. And for those of you that's home, you're probably thinking, okay, because as I said, this morning we want to keep the competition as real so as to see where it comes from. So we're saying, yes, that is what drives us as men, as human beings. And why we say as men, because we're not just limiting the violence to male against female, female against male. Now we've noticed, Roger, that there's a shift as society evolves, and there's a shift in some of our traditional norms. So too, we see some non-traditional behaviors.
Definitely. So you're looking at it from several angles, yeah? Yeah? The balance, the seesaw is going up and down.
Right.
Finding the balance is the challenge.
How do we find the balance, and is it actually possible that we can find such a balance at the end of the day?
Well, we could create the balance. Because when I say find, people might think, well, you need to go look for it. Let me simplify it. You need to create the balance. And I say it is not an easy process, but it has to be one of a flip in mindset, a listening and appreciation for other views. Because that doesn't happen. So you see what you have in you, you have to, some would say you have to unlearn, relearn, flush out, and then start looking at things from a triangular perspective.
Explain that triangular perspective.
Me, you, right? So it's two of us. You, the other person, two of you. But there's a mission you're on. There's an objective. Or there's a society you're living in. So you have your views, the person has his views. But there's this one point that we are heading towards. How do we get there? By just taking your views? No. By just taking my views? No. We have to now come together to realize that we're getting to that point. And so the differences in views, thoughts, values, they have to be weighed, and we have to agree. So we have to agree at some point.
And every day I say to folks, that's when we do the call-in, that your prerogative, your position is not about whether you agree with me or not. You can say, JC, I disagree with you, and I have no issues with that. What I say to people, Roger, is that we need to be able to respect each other's position. I will say, listen, I hear you, I understand what you're saying, because very often people think that me disagreeing is because I don't understand your position. I understand clearly what you're saying, but I'm saying to you, I respectfully and humbly do not agree. But the issue, we started off about education, and very often people think that element of change has to do with academic achievement. The truth is, change, education, while academic achievement, kudos, we strive for it. That unlearning we're talking about and relearning, that's a separate conversation by itself, really and truly.
Right, you nailed it, right? You did, because, oh gosh, you may think I am saying something crazy now, but academics could make you less educated.
And I'm going to agree with you. And I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to agree with you. And I know there is a gentleman who's probably yearning to call now, because people think that once I have achieved the ultimate, that I've been illuminated, I've become enlightened. And that may be true in one context, but certainly education can sometimes blind our eyes to some of the virtues in life, especially when you sit in universities and you start doing things like philosophy and all those different. You start going. I remember my first time in front of philo, and I started going. My first class, I lived at a shakeman. No, Joe, no. That's not what you've been taught all of your life. You have to listen, appreciate, but you have to start filtering now, Roger.
Yeah, definitely, because you see, academia is designed for an objective again. So we are shaping, we are feeding you what we expect, because we have our outcomes and deliverables waiting. Just as the education system. If we want you to go along a path, we would shape it like that. So as far as you go, even as universities, it is designed to shape you in a pattern. So when you get to that level, you could either come out worse or you miss out on what your society has. So you've eaten, and mind you, I'm looking at it at the lowest level. You've eaten foreign, international, other things, and you are not connecting with your society and your community. So you're very well educated, you may be at the top, but let me see the relevance to your country, your society, where you are. How do you apply it? And not they say and this say and doctor this say. No. How do you connect it to your society? So education and academics could show you off.
It takes us back to remember our dear former principal. No, if I tell him that, I'll sell out some of it. Yeah, we are GBSS old boys. But I remember he did say to us, "Good morning to you, Mr. Victor Ashby, the chief." How can we not say the chief? With all, you are doing wrong. You are doing wrong. But we're doing right today. That I remember he said to us that at the end of our lives at the GBSS, it is less about achieving academia, but it's more about us getting to appreciate our role and position in society, Roger.
Definitely. And that has been the mission ever since.
Have we been able to do it though? Because we seem to be, we have persons that we have greater access to tertiary education. We have so much people, doctors, this, that. Our society has evolved and grown to where we were just backyard farmers. Now, where we seem to be in a modern world, but yet some of our behaviors seem to be so primal.
Well, you're touching some things, JC, because that's the reality of it. It can take you away, as I say, from the reality of life. And so when you get to that level, you may think that, okay, I have to drop certain things. And seeing that you touch the backyard, remember, my life, what sent me to school wasn't academics. The garden, the backyard, the land, agriculture. These are the things that sent me to school. So I know how to go in town and sell what I plant in the backyard. Anyway, that's another story.
That's another one.
That's the reality of it.
That is the reality.
But when you get there, you see, the higher level could make you selfish, and then we go there, we get the education and knowledge, and we hide it. We don't come back to help build society. I don't believe in that. Because if I were to follow that pattern, I would be hiding home, just sitting, looking for some work elsewhere and just not willing to help. But when you connect to that level, you're supposed to come back and give to society. Help grow people.
Help to grow. I often say, Roger, and I say it with no reservation, that a man that hits a woman, he hits because he's weak. And I'm not. You could get vexed with me. You could turn up your eye. You could say, JC, you hit a woman because you're weak, and you hear men say, I did that because she made me do it. Roger, can people make you do anything you want to that you don't want to do in this life?
Well, you answered it. You make me do it because I'm weak. Well, reality. Yes. The point is that you've given in. You're broken.
Explain.
You're broken. Well, the lady could break the man, so we have to be very careful here now. Because if the lady is strong, the man could be weak, and he's covering up his weakness with the physical. You get me? So I'm going to mash you, bash you, smash you, do whatever I want to make you feel, make you believe that I am strong. But deep inside, the emotion is something you can't bear. You know?
And is that some have argued that our teaching, the church teaching, which cultures us to say into believing that we've taken that the woman is a weaker vessel, and the man being strong, and wives must be in submission to their. We take those. Some people. I mean, I don't know sure what has blocked, even where they've gone into the wrong, but some have taken the scriptures for their own self-satisfaction, as though the Bible is suggesting that man being the head, woman being the weaker vessel, that it means that I just could do whatever I want with you.
And we've taken it into a culture of, power, and we just shift it into power. You understand? But that's not the reality of it. That's not the reality. It is something that we maybe nurtured into believing. But here is it. Everybody is built with that level of emotion and vibration within. And I take it back down to the simple level again. When you fail to recognize who you are and what your potential is inside of you, your strengths and your weaknesses, you would start to beat somebody or hit on somebody when you realize that you're losing that strength and that power. So it goes into relationship and into life, and that's where the abuse would spring in. Hey, you make me look small. What happened to you? What's going on with you? Hey, a man ain't supposed to look small in front of nobody. Instead of you talk it out, what you do? Because we know beating would solve the problem. Hell no, it wouldn't solve the problem.
And I'm noticing, which is good, because we're taking this not just from relationships, but even in the workplace. That people, bosses, sometimes would want to exert their dominance on you because I am the boss. So I will speak to you how I choose. I will say what I want, but that has nothing to do with that.
Nope.
In all of this mix, and folks appreciate it, we condense it a lot into this conversation, but it's just the starting point. Then comes the conversation of emotional intelligence.
Oh, say that word. Say, because, and that is so critical. You see that emotional intelligence, how you manage people and the emotions, how you affect or impact the emotions and the reactions of the persons you work with. And I'm glad you say in the workplace, because a lot of persons are destroyed in the workplace. You're destroyed at home, you go to work and you're destroyed even further.
So not just that, let's take it. You're destroyed at home because mommy, daddy, maybe they grew up in your neck, they talk down to you. You're dumb, you're stupid, you're dunce, you're whatever. You're lazy. You go to school, you get it. You come to work, you hear it. You become a grown man now, and all of a sudden, you have developed, you have been reduced to almost nothing. A woman comes into your life, she probably making more money than you, or if not, but you think, I need to prove. And I often say, Roger, does a male need to prove his masculinity to anybody?
No, he doesn't have to. But you just timeline the experience. Because the man has reached a point of maybe elevation, volcanic explosion, and he feels that it's time that he put a stop to it. He might have met that one person who loves and succumbs, is obedient and loving and caring. That's where we'll find. Because most time when you attack, and it goes for the lady too, when you attack is because of the person who is your best and greatest listener and your supporter, that who may get the bashing most.
That's who comes. Because very often you're not going to take those tendencies outside.
No.
Because you're not sure how they are going to react.
Thank you.
But the people that are close to you, study them, you understand them, and I know if I poke Roger's going to smile.
Yeah.
But those are things we learn as children, you know.
Oh.
Yesterday with Janelle, that's the other day. She's with one of her daughters, the younger one, and she's telling her, "I'm going to call you mommy when I'm home, just to provoke you." Oh. And she's asking her to do what? And the child is saying to her clearly, I'm going to call you at work just to provoke you. The question is, people, because all of us have what we call triggers, and I just want to talk about that. That's why it's important to understand people, Roger, and the triggers, what makes them who they are, and even they themselves appreciating, JC, what makes you tick, Roger? What gets you angry?
Definitely. I'm looking for it. I'm looking for it. You see, what I don't like is to see other persons destroy other persons.
Right.
So for me, it would activate my desire to go forward and help.
Right.
And then most of it put me in trouble. Especially when you're talking about the GBV and all of that. So it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman, it activates me and I step forward and say, yo, stop that. That shouldn't be happening. But then, crazily, I become a victim. But that would trigger me quickly to say, no, you had to help, man. You had to step in and do something like that. So this, and then it fits you into several variables that spill off, and you don't want to get into that point. But for me, I think that's the critical moment where you say, enough is enough. You need to step in. But what else, again, when you see you have like bosses, and you said it, who do not listen. When you don't give a listening ear to persons, you destroy them, and that would trigger me to say, no, you need to step in and help somebody, or maybe represent that person. When you shut down people.
Just last night, I was listening. I don't know how I ended up on one of these YouTube videos, and gentleman, he was talking about, he was saying that everybody we have all agreed that Nelson Mandela has been and will always forever remain one of the world's greatest and most iconic leaders. And he said in interviewing Nelson Mandela one day, he asked him, well, where you've learned this? Because it's not necessarily that he comes from this like academia background where he says he learned from, he grew up as a boy in Africa. His father was a tribal chief. And he said two things he recognized. His father listened. And he said additionally, when they went to these tribal meetings, village meetings, his father he listened, and he was always the last one to speak. And he said what that taught him is that his father said to him, when you listen, you give individuals the opportunity to share their views. It first gets you to appreciate your position, their position, and it allows at the end of the day that when you give that your final delivery, you get the sense that people, it puts them in a position where they think, my position is appreciated because the boss allowed me to speak. And at the end of the day, while he maintains the position, he has the final word and the final say. The fact that everybody in the room, and he says they sat on a table in a circle, which allowed for control. And that's what we need to fashion in our minds. And I hear sometimes we grow up and say, I was born so, I was dead so. God, that's our demise, bro. You can't born so and die like that, can't really?
But you're fed that. Most people, if you say when you're born poor, you're supposed to stay poor.
Says who?
But if you feed that, it's dangerous, and you're talking from school, church, all this, the home. These three entities, dangerous, very useful.
Good Lord of mercy. 27 minutes gone past the hour in the morning time. It is to the point for today, the 6th day of January. I see the phones are ringing, but we just wanted to make sure that we establish this conversation and to say to you that this is in fact the start of what would be a series, not just between Dr. yourself and I, but other individuals out there. And I always feel happy, and I know guys like my boys, Arthur and so on. What's his name in Legal Aid?
Tyrone.
Right. He's probably, because I always like when I find men that has a passion to deal with those issues. But we take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back, and we open up the line so we can share. You too can share your thoughts and positions on the issue of domestic violence. Government has announced measures to drive the cost of living down. The opposition thinks some of these will backfire in the future. Pensions have been paid as promised. Opposing voices question the sustainability. How will the Prime Minister and his team play the balancing act? Let's hear from him on these and other issues on Monday nights on GBN's Beyond the Headlines at 8 p.m. Beyond the Headlines, live on GBN Television, Classic Radio, and our social media platforms.
Missy mentioned the wing kai, then you have things like man, you must come back, you know. We have the low power that.
It is kind of like the same man, and it's just different name for the same kind of thing.
And last but not least, I just want to say to all the men who saw me, call me, and ask for piece of cake, I'm baking this weekend.
Join us Fridays at 8 on GBN Television, K105 FM, GBN's Facebook page, and YouTube channel for We Culture.
Looking for that injection of vibes and energy, of course? Well, I've got just that. Hi, my name is Gary Mr. Smooth, and I'm inviting you to join me on the Hot Morning Show on Hot 98.5, 98.7 FM. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 10 in the morning. I've got a healthy dose of your favorite and most infectious hits sampled with information, news, laughter, and all the other ingredients that go into making the hottest morning show on the radio, The Morning Heat. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit us up on WhatsApp, 435-7517. We've got topics, we've got discussions, calls, voice notes, and so much more. But I can't tell you everything. You gotta tune in. The Hot Morning Show on Hot FM, 98.5, 98.7. With yours truly, Gary Mr. Smooth. Kaboom!
No, that's not how you cross the pedestrian crossing.
Really? One day I just woke up and I saw pedestrian crosswalks on the road. No one really showed me how to use them properly.
Well, this is how it's done. You never cross before doing these things. They might save your life. First, when you get to the crosswalk, you stop. You look left, you look right. If there's a vehicle coming, you put your hand out, making eye contact with the driver, indicating that you want to cross. And only when the vehicle comes to a complete stop, you quickly cross to the other side.
Stop, look, hand out, eye contact. Wait for pedestrian to cross to the other side, then you happily continue on your journey. This message is brought to you by this group of insurance companies, the Traffic Advisory Body, and the Traffic Department.
Thank you. Welcome back to the program. It's to the point for today, the 6th day of the month of January. I can see, Roger, the telephone line has been going crazy. We're going to go to the lines right now. Good morning,
Hello.
caller. Good morning, caller. You're alive.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Yes, sir. This is your very good friend, Colin. Generally speaking, I think you have changed maybe your way of thinking. It's a blessing that I'm listening to this program. I have already said that listening is a skill. A skill. So everything you do, you have to listen, and everything you do depends on what you have learned. Now, the word domestic violence, to me, it signifies mostly things in the home. It could be extended outside. I don't know. But maybe one or two of you all will tell me if I'm wrong. Now, we as people, we tell people what we must do, and we do not do it. But that's why I like the discussion between two of you all. Because I assume you would and have taken some advice from what this goodly gentleman is saying. Now, you have to tolerate people. That's what the man is saying. Or he's trying to extend his answers by saying you have to appreciate people. And you have to know how to deal with them, whether on the air or not on the air, in a psychological way, as you would have to deal with your children, your wives, and whoever you have in the home in a skillful, diplomatic way. So, not you, when I say you, I don't mean you, although it could represent you too. People should have a way of dealing with people, especially people in the media and elsewhere, so that they shouldn't upset somebody to to cause controversy in the program.
Okay.
Many a times, not now, not today. You are doing very, very well, and I hope you change for the better from today onward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my dear friend. All the best to you, sir. 425-2041. That's the that's the number on the inside to be part of the conversation. We go back to the telephone lines. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Good morning to Dr. Christopher Williams. It's always a pleasure to hear Dr. Williams. In fact, Joseph and Dr. Williams will be one of the people on that panel be organizing for the 29th of January. So you're in good company. Now, to add to the conversation, it is said that the greatest gift a person can give to another is the purity of their attention. We don't give people any gift when we feel to listen, when we feel to give our full attention to them. And it pervades the whole society. That's why we have a lot of problems. That's why we have violence and all that kind of stuff. In addition, we live contradictory life. And when I look at, for instance, the anthem, ever conscious of God, we aspire, whatever, as one people. And we treat, for instance, women, having said that, as second-class citizens. In a lot of ways, we may argue on that. But we train our boys to see girls as less capable of the men, of the boys.
Okay.
So if the girls inculcate that from small, it's obviously that they're going to play a subservient role. Just as in the general population, the average person don't think that they're equal to people from, say, other races. So, I mean, many people have come to me over the years and said that I'm surprised that you can talk to the other people from other races in the manner you're talking, because I always I have to bow down my head when I'm speaking to them. So we have to do a lot of work on ourselves, especially in our internal work, which we are not doing. There's a story, and I'll leave it here because I speak for the morning like Dr. Williams. A story of this guy in the East. He was looking on the alarm post, and a guy came and asked him, "What are you looking for?" He said, "I'm looking for my keys." So the guys joined him, and they looked for a few hours. When they didn't find the key, the person who joined, the one looking for the key, asked him, "But exactly where did you lose your key?" He said, "I lost it inside my house." So he said, "But why are you looking here?" He said, "Because there's more light here." Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, sir. 435-2041, and that's the number on the inside. Roger, and there's so much that we touch on today. We're condensing it, which will allow ultimately for a more expansive conversation. But we talked about culture, and we grew up singing little nursery rhymes. What a little girl's made of, Rod. What a little girl's made of? Sugar and spice.
Oh, that's nice.
All the nice things in life. What a little boy's made of.
Don't go there.
Don't go there. Don't go there. A little girl falls, and you tell her, get up, and you dust her off.
Yeah.
Your son falls.
Up to you, man.
Up to you. You're a big man. What you crying for? Get up.
Get up.
Get up. We teach our girls that they need to grow up, be submissive, and then find a man to take care of them. And I'm saying, Roger, even that culturing adds to the conversation, where women assume that why shouldn't you tell your daughter grow up, get a job, and be independent? So as they say, no man can style her.
Yeah, definitely.
What is wrong with that? We have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
JC. I just heard your previous caller. Did he say that we train our girls to be less than men? In which society is that, Grenada? I am 64, and I can say that our society has been training or girls to be less than men? You probably could expound on that. I don't understand that. Bye.
Roger, before we go back to the telephone, let's talk about education and teaching, because there is formal education and there's the informal culture, norms, folklores, culture, and we just made a reference to it, and I got the sense that's what the previous caller was speaking to indirectly. But you're part of the performing arts, theater, and all of that helps to form the way people think within society.
Yep, values. When you shape a mind, you're not shaping it for now.
Right.
And it is embedded in the education system, which is the easiest way to get your mission out. And notice I said mission.
and I guess the question would always have to be determined, what is the ultimate mission of that institution? I tell people, anything you see anywhere, whoever writes it, there's an agenda.
There's an agenda.
So whether or not the person said Jesus Christ is white, the next one said Jesus Christ is black, believe me, both sides of the coin, they have an agenda. But the truth is, we teach our young people, and let's not be myopic about it. We tell our young girls, grow up, and then get a man to take care of you, and have 2 children, and that becomes the fairy tale life that everybody is supposed to live.
And you know it's still happening.
It's still happening.
You know, you have people in Grenada. Well, you see, it might hurt or affect some persons in the 40s and 50s, still looking for that, hoping that one day they will find that fairy tale.
He comes on his white horse.
Yeah.
And he whisks them off into the sunset.
And then you have the men now who's still waiting for that rich lady to come along. One day I will find that rich woman. The thing, it has changed. Because I'm doing groundwork, I could speak to that directly. One day somebody's going to rescue you out of your poverty instead of you getting up and making sure that you do the things. So the culture, and the culture is not just, we say the way of life of a people. I think it's too broad to surface. But it also deals with the philosophy and the education that you get from home, communities, wherever you go to interact. You might spend 5 months here. You are drinking something from within that community. So the culture is beyond the way of the life. But the thoughts...
We go back to the telephone lines. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Cadore, and good morning to your guest. Mr. Cadore, you hear so many things spoken of. For years upon years, we've been hearing about violence and we're hearing all kind of negativities about humanity. And we've talked for years upon years, but instead of things get better, it progressively gets worse. And that is because we are not going where we need to go. We're afraid of the spiritual side of things because we think we don't understand much of it. You see, to understand certain spiritual things, you must have an experience, a spiritual transformation. We're talking about transformation. If we want anything to change, we have to be transformed from the inside of us. One of your callers made a little... talks about that. He just thought that if we look inside ourselves, change ourselves. We cannot change ourselves. God is the only person who can change man. And when we have gotten that internal transformation, we will be different. All who get transformation will be different. And that is where the answer lies. But that's where we are not going. As though we are afraid to talk about the spiritual life. Man is a spiritual being.
But let me ask you, caller, and in as much as God has made us free moral agents, and yes, while I agree, change at the end of the day, but would you agree or disagree that in order for change to become real, you have to submit yourself? So God is going to do the change.
He has to make the change in you.
But hold on.
Then we say, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That will prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God, not the will of man.
But my dear caller, you're not allowing me to ask you the question.
Oh, sorry.
And I'm not disagreeing with you. I don't ever disagree with the scriptures. I'm asking you whether you would agree, though, that as part of the change process, I, Joseph Cadore, Dr. Christopher Roger Williams, we have to get to a point of saying, I am a sinner. and you're doing it wrong. So ultimately, for change to really be effective, the individual, they must get to a point of recognizing through self that I need God, I need Holy Spirit, whatever external force. It starts with me. That's what I'm asking.
You have to accept this and acknowledge it. And when you submit to Christ, He changes you. There is a change.
So we are.
Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he's a new creature.
Thank you.
He's the one. We cannot change ourselves.
Thank you.
God is the only one to change us.
And I think we're on the same page because very often we have this conversation where you cannot change yourself. Whether or not, listen to me, whether or not whatever has to be done, any element of change, it has to come to a point of recognition and acceptance.
Must.
Roger, if you tell a man he drinking too much, they're going to kill you. If he doesn't come to a point of recognizing, but this doesn't make sense. You could talk from now until Christ come. You could preach the Bible in 1,000 different ways.
It wouldn't happen just so. It has to be action oriented.
It has, and that's very, very often. While these conversations, we have to continue having it. We're going to go back to the telephone lines. Good morning, caller. You are live.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
Gentlemen, Mr. Frenchy and others. Yeah, I have a little difference of opinion about certain words you're using, like education.
That's fine. Go ahead.
And learning. Now, if you read some of the old manuscripts from parliamentary debates and from legal arguments, they speak of the learned gentleman, not educated gentleman, the learned gentleman. Because in my mind, education is not simply going to school and learning some stuff. There has to be a synthesis where you come around to the point that you appreciate the other person's point of view, and you can associate and live in the environment where other people's views and opinions are recognized and respected. Now, in our society, from my experiences with politicians and with people in authority, like the principal of a school or somebody like that, sometimes you express an opinion and you point to a certain decision that should be taken, and they object completely because they don't consider themselves your friend. They don't consider that you are part of their association, their line of privilege or whatever it is.
Okay.
And therefore, they turn it down. And additionally, this question of men and women, Honorable Eric Matthew Geary was the first man, as I know in the Caribbean, to elevate the status of women. Dame Hilda Bino, the principals of schools, permanent secretaries, cabinet secretary, all these people came up under Geary. So they were elevated. But at the same time, Geary had his shortcomings. So, and women, up to today, when women become learned people, they have difficulty finding an appropriate mate, because many of us as men feel, why, this woman better than me, boy, I can't go with this lady. And as you said, the point of weakness. And that is where, because we feel inferior, we attack as soon as we can.
Thank
so,
you,
gentlemen,
sir.
I'm leaving it at that.
Thank you.
And please go ahead and let us know again. Thank you.
It comes back, Roger, to some of the very things where we started the conversation. Why should you in any way feel less if your wife, your partner, whoever you choose, is making more than you? Why? Why should you feel less? Listen to me. Hey, listen. And people may find, listen. If the woman making twice more than you, listen, papi, go home, help her wash your clothes.
Rejoice.
Rejoice. The woman can take care of you. But find a balance. Find a balance. But I mean, I know folks will not just the lighter side of it. But I think the conversation, where we started, Roger, as we keep our eyes on the clock, 12 minutes onto the hour. Any change has to first begin with the man in the mirror submitting herself to a greater power. Whether that greater power is understanding through spirituality, through education, through me recognizing that this has not worked. We need to get to a point where we decide enough is enough. And I think as a society, when it comes to the issue of violence, we have to say enough is enough.
Definitely. But here's the thing, I mean, self-growth comes from, and the gentleman who spoke about education again, as you say, we are using education like that. But you see, if without application, education is just a tree growing.
Correct.
You understand? So you have to, and I don't think we focus enough within the curriculum on application and analysis.
Correct.
We just focus on knowledge, because your application of this acquired experience will help you to acquire more experiences. And that's what we're missing the thing. But leave it like that. But when you get to understand self, and self comes from that journey from birth to now, wherever you are at, the experience, and you are creating a life experience and journey, but we don't pay attention to it. Right. So you miss your strengths and your weaknesses as you're growing.
And it's interesting that if you ask an individual, you get grown adults, we're talking about mature people, grown people, and you tell them, tell me about yourself.
Oh.
Here's the first thing they say. Well, I am Mr. Joseph Cadore, or I'm Dr. Williams, and I hold a PhD, and I work at the Grenada Broadcasting. That's not you. That's not you. The real you is when you're able to say, you know what? This emotion triggers me off.
There you go. Honesty.
I know.
Honest analysis of self.
If you talk down to me, you try to talk down to me, I may react. It's for the simple reason. I know we tried. I know when we started out with emotional intelligence. You would expose individuals to the same stimulus or stimuli, right? And each and every one of us will react totally different. You play soccer, and John goes start up, and you play soccer, and I said,
"I gone to bed, man."
You play me a Celine Dion. And it stirs me on the inside. Another person says, Joe, Lord, that music will kill me. Because we all being fashioned differently.
Yep.
But it comes to the point, we need, first and foremost, in order to address the issue of domestic violence, we need to understand me. Joseph Cadore needs to understand who he is. What triggers him off.
Can't run from that.
You can't run from it. But do you think it's enough? We talk about the education system that is designed for us to be able to appreciate to that level of learning?
No. It takes us away from it. And I'll tell you this simply. The education system has cut out expression, play, fun. Once you take that out, interaction, social energies in the class, when you focus on grades, but you could focus on grades while engaging in fun and activities that lead you to that point. But we've created competition in our curriculum and education system, so you are destroying that. How do you get to know yourself, your strengths and your weaknesses? Group work, activities, your friends support you, this one pick up, oh, you need help here, man, let me help you. Instead, no, leave that one, let it crash. So we are moving away from this the support system. And that's what's critical. It don't mean you have to hold somebody's hand and drag them up. Right. But you see strengths and weaknesses in that combination. The education system does not help us there. So that's what we have to revisit.
We need to revisit a whole lot of things. We go back to the telephone lines. Good morning, caller. You're live. Caller, you're alive. Caller, you alive.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. You alive.
Good morning.
Okay, my dear sir, let me ask you. I know that you're trying to follow the conversation.
Yeah, just calling out to drop it.
Yes, sir, but before you get into your delivery, could you turn on the device in the background? I don't want to have to cut you off, sir. There's a device in the background that you are listening to. I need you to listen to me on the telephone. There's a device in the background that you are listening to. I need you to listen to me on the telephone. I do have to apologize for, and it's something that we say with it, and it's all part of the learning curve. And it's interesting. We say that every day on the program. You're calling me on the telephone. We are conducting a conversation via the telephone. I know most of you're tempted to want to hear your voice on radio. That's not for you to do. Let me be the one to hear my voice. But joking. But seriously, when you do call, we having a conversation via the telephone. Take off whatever device is in the background. Good morning, caller. You alive?
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Cadore, and to your guest.
Good morning.
Very interesting conversation. I would like to add my concerns to me, which may take it to another, which may put another spin to it.
Go ahead.
I have to. So, looking at society today, we realize that the educationists, the psychiatrists, the psychologists, the economists, the socialist theories are failing us. What do? I think we should go back to our origin. Our origin, where do we come from? I do not know how much people, a lot of people don't believe of our origin. Our origin is God. And he gave us a manual to map to guide us on our way, how we live on this earth. Remember, we are spiritual beings trying to master a human experience on the earth, and the Bible is the manual. What did the Bible say about man? Somewhere it is written, I can't remember the exact book. The heart of man is full of deceit. Who could know it? So we can't even know ourselves. Another man can't even know ourselves. The most brilliant psychologists cannot know us. Because the word of God says that God is all-knowing. But what I think he's asking us to do is to go to him. Now he laid down, he gave us the fruits and the gifts of the Holy Spirit, which was to help us change our nature through the blood of Jesus Christ, to become the human beings we are supposed to be. You know what I tell young people? I said, listen, you cannot see another man and know him. You cannot see another woman and know who that person is. Ask God to send that person in your life who he created for you from time begun. God has a partner for us if he wants to get married. He is the one who can bring that person out. There is no way we can know. Sometimes we meet somebody and we marry to them and the marriage come out very successful, based on societal standards. But I think for us it will be much easier if we go to him. But a lot of us don't go to him, as you know, because a lot of us don't believe. But I think that is, and you know, Mrs. Jeremiah is hinting at that all the time. Go back to our creator, our maker, our originator, who created everything and has a plan for us on this earth. So, gentlemen, I want to urge people to read the book of Tobit. It's not in the King James Version Bible. It's in the New Revised Standard Version Bible. Read the King James, read that book of Tobit. It says apocryphal is not inspired, but I'm telling you, it is very enlightening. We need to ask God to help us to understand the other person in our lives.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving me a few minutes to express my opinion.
Appreciate it. Thanks for your contribution. I think while, Doc, we may have persons coming from different extreme points, I think most of us converge upon the same thing. Now, there's a need for change, and we are accepting we're highlighting the fact that change doesn't just come wantonly. It has to be a decisive effort that it is made. But you know what is interesting, and even sometimes when you add religion to the conversation, that even sometimes the teachings, why you tell people to go to the scriptures, even sometimes the very scriptures and the way it is presented to individual. So a man goes to man and wife, so boy and girl gets together. Girl gets pregnant. The first thing you tell them is run and get married. Okay. Boy and girl living together. Boy hits girl. They grow up after two children. You're telling her, well, try and walk it, and he keeps hitting you. And they tell you, listen, you know what? Let me not get too personal. I'm saying, what we need to teach, and you would agree, is that we need to first develop who we are. Roger.
Critical. You see, the mind is all you have. It may sound crazy. You have a body moving around, but the mind is all you have. When you lose that, you're no longer in control of yourself. Other persons manipulate you, you become that puppet marionette. So if you lose that focus, my energy or the energy of someone else would make you do things. That's why you turn around and you start blaming people. You see what you make me do? Okay, there you go. So when you manage self, you have to manage self. So from spiritual to what you want to call carnal, you exist in that society where you have to balance it. You must balance it.
Thank you, Dr. Christopher Roger Williams. And I think it's important that life be a balance. That even when you, yes, there is the role of spirituality, but you are a spiritual person living in a physical world.
Thank you.
There are forces, elements, and you have to be able to play the act. Do you just walk around and be all pious that, well, Jesus loves you, Jesus loves you? That might be so. But trust me, if you're married and all you're telling your wife is Jesus loves her, Believe me.
Look out for the effects.
And while Jesus loves her might be the truth, she knows that we have to talk about interpersonal relationship and understand how my actions or my inactions
affect and impact.
How it affects and impact. Dr. Williams, it was a pleasure being here with you. Folks, this is as far as we can take you today. Not the end of this conversation, though. I'm going to promise you that it is a start in what is going to be a series where we're really trying to understand. Some may argue we may never be able to. But it is not our intention to try to change anybody overnight, but of course to illuminate. And we want to agree that education, I think more than we recognize, goes beyond just the classroom.
Definitely.
It goes beyond academia. It's being able to appreciate and understand my role and my purpose in this life. And you need to first start, what is my purpose for being here? And how do I, as I say to us every day, how do I become the next best version of myself? If I've never achieved that in knowing self, I'm going to achieve nothing and make no impact in this world. Until then, JC loves you. The weekend is here. The kids, well, the first week of school, I want to encourage you parents, when they come home this evening, first thing, homework. And after Sir Frenchie, how does a child tell a parent they have no homework to do? And the parent say, okay, really?
Because the child is in weekend mode.
The child is in weekend mode, but the parents need to be able to help to shape and craft their mind. That even while you're in the weekend mode, there's more to life than just being in the weekend. Because after the weekend, you have to go back into academic mode.
There you go.
Roger, have yourself a great
pleasure,
It's always a pleasure, bro. Peace and love. And as a reminder that the prize indeed to the one who earns it, but there must be a sacrifice that you have to make in order to achieve the next best alternative in life. Until then, JC loves you. Have a great one.